So let me just introduce you guys to Krittika. Krittika has always found her solace in color, and she is the founder of Atelier. Atelier. Krittika, you got to tell me how to pronounce that. She's the founder of Atelier by Krittika Raheja, a brand that looks to brighten up your everyday life by adding a pop of color and cheerfulness through functional art. So what you need for this session is watercolors, my brush that is currently missing, and a piece of paper which is 15 centimeters by 7 centimeters. If you don't have the piece of paper yet, Kritika will guide you on what's a good alternative. So over to you, Kritika. Let's do this.
Hi, Sanjana.
Hi.
So I'm so excited to be doing this, and I've been sitting prepped since the last half an hour. And through the previous session, I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Anyway, so it is Atelier or Atelier, whichever, if you want to say the English way, the French way, that's absolutely up to you. And so this is the bookmark we're going to be painting today. If you don't have a paper this size, you can follow through with whatever paper you want. The only reason I'm kind of focusing on the size of the paper today is because we have only 20 minutes. So I may go faster than you may be able to catch up or whatever. Like it may be one of those issues and not really, oh, I can't do it on such a big paper. So that's my only concern, that you may not be able to go as fast as required. But honestly, even if you just watch it and then do it later, it's absolutely fine if you want to do it on a bigger piece of paper. And what we're also going to do is we're going to record the session and I'm going to post it on my Instagram handle later. So once the session is done, maybe like by late tonight or tomorrow morning. So if you do not want to, if you can't paint it right now, or you feel like your paper is too big or whatever, you can always catch it on there tomorrow. So don't worry. All you need right now is paper, watercolors, and a brush, and we are ready to get started. So
okay, Kritika, I've switched on the record option on your laptop, so you can start recording this right away.
Okay, so I'm just going to wait maybe a minute, if that's fine with you, for everyone to just grab their stuff and be ready.
Awesome.
And we'll get started. So I'll just quickly switch onto my phone as well.
Okay.
So we have a topic of what we're painting.
Perfect, perfect.
Cool. So I'm just going to turn my video off here right now, and I'm going to turn on my phone video so we can do that. Okay, hey guys, I'm back with a top angle view of what we're working on today. I'm just going to give this a second so I can record my session. And I'm also going to wait a minute for everyone to grab their things. So once you guys have your stuff ready, just give me a thumbs up in the chat box so I know when to start and we can then have fun.
Kritika, I just wanted to reconfirm the size of the paper. Is it 15 centimeters by 7 centimeters?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
I'm also going to get my music started because I love doing my sessions with some nice piano background. It's very calming. Okay, Sanjana, my phone is not going to let me record for whatever reasons. So I'm just going to take the video from you later.
Yep, absolutely. So we have, yes, our session is recording. I'll send it to you shortly.
Yeah, don't worry about when it comes. That's fine. It's just that I want it on Instagram for everyone to be able to catch up if they can't follow through with this. Okay, so I think I'm going to start. Do you guys have your brushes ready and paint?
So in case anyone would like to put a thumbs up, you can just look at the bottom of the participant section. Click on more and you will see a thumbs up as well as a thumbs down. We are only looking for thumbs ups over here because this is the fun, positive space. What you could also do is, in case you have a question, please click on the raise hand feature and we'll get Krittika to answer it right away.
Yeah, really love interactive sessions. So looking forward to you guys asking your questions and just interacting with us. Okay, so I'm just gonna get started. Like you can see, I have taped down my paper to my base. You don't have to do this. I like doing this because I kind of like having a clean edge on all my paintings. So that's what it looks like. It is a personal choice, so you don't have to have that. And if you do want that, I've used masking tape. So all I've done is reduce the glue a little and then I've just taped it on. So I reduce the glue by putting it on a piece of fabric or just like, you know, a glossy surface from where the tape can peel off without actually damaging anything. And it just reduces the stickiness of your tape so it doesn't pull your paper apart when you remove it. Okay, so you're going to see how amazingly satisfying that looks right in the end. But until then, I'm just going to get started. So what I'm doing is I have a camel watercolor palette. I have my brush ready. I have some water with me here, and I have a rag, and that's all I need. So I'm going to get started with taking some lemon yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wash off, like dab off my excessive paint. So I want it to be quite liquidy. I don't want it to be very solid. So I'm just going to put in water, and then the extra excessive paint that's on my brush, I'm just going to wipe it off on my lid of the box. If you have a palette, that also works brilliantly, but I think the lid of the box is a very good area. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint at the bottom. So we're going light to dark, like you would with every painting you make, because you don't want your water to get dirty. So if I started with black first, it won't be wrong, but what's going to happen is that my water is going to get dirty when I wash off my brush, and that black is just going to bleed into all my other colors because I'm going to keep using the water. So the cleaner your water stays, the better it is. That being said, it is paint, so your water is going to get dirty, but that's why we do light to dark, because even if the yellow mixes into the black, it's not really doing anything to the black, it's going to continue remaining black. Okay. So now I'm going to take the next color, that is a gamboge hue, or is just a very mangoey color. I don't know how vivid it is on the camera, but just the next color. So if you have two yellows in your palette, just use a darker yellow. That's it. And I'm just applying it as a gradient over here, and that's about all I'm doing. So I'm not going too much into my sky because it is a sunset. So, and it's quite a late sunset from what I have created. If you want it to be an earlier one, that's absolutely your choice. And you can definitely go higher into the sky and just have the darker colors as a smaller proportion on your sheet. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to now take some orange and do exactly the same thing. So again, I'm just doing that. Now I feel like my orange is too watery, so I'm just going to take some more paint and just apply it down there. So you want to try and blend your colors and you don't want them to be like starkly different colors. So a nice tip for that is that you have to just work at a speed where the watercolor doesn't dry up. If it dries up, it's absolutely fine. And all you've got to do is just get some water on there and just blend it in. So That's all you have to do. I feel like I want my orange to be darker, so I'm just going to build on it. The thing with watercolors is if you build too much or if you build before the previous layer dries, your paper will come apart. Like it will start disintegrating. So you have to just wait a few seconds because it's not like watercolor takes too long to dry. At the end of it, you're working with water. Okay, so now that I have the orange down, I'm going to now go on to what my palette calls a crimson, but it's quite a pink color. So I like that. If you have a pink on your palette or like a light red, that would be ideal. So again, I'm going to just do the same thing. So you see, it's not a very red color. It's quite pink in its tone. So I'm just blending it in. And then I'm going to move on to the next color, which is a deeper red. And because I want some red to show through, okay? So I'm going to take I have another red that's quite a deep red. It's called Carmine on the Camel palette, if that's what you're using. If you don't have a deeper red, it's absolutely fine to actually not put that red down at all because it's not really necessary. Because when you look at it, like I know the light is reflecting quite a bit, but when it dries up, you'll see that there's not too much of a color difference. So I'm just going to add very little of it and then continue with my next gradient color, which is going to be a violet. So again, I'm doing exactly the same thing. Wet your cake, or if you're using tube colors or whatever, just get that color out. And again, just a little. So again, I feel like it's quite watery, so I'm just going to take some more paint. And the thing with watercolors is that you can build it up. So if you feel like this color isn't quite what you want a darker color, you just wait for a few minutes for it to dry and then you just paint over it again. So it gives it a nice build up. And that's how I've blended. And now I think like my purple could be a little darker, but we can just come back to that once it's drier. Because right now if I do anything to it, my paper will disintegrate even though I'm using very, very thick paper. I'm using 300 GSM paper, and I'm very specific about the kind of paper I use. So I use 100% cotton cold pressed 300 GSM watercolor paper. You also get hot press paper. The difference between cold press and hot press paper is the texture of the paper. Okay, so if you are interested in watercolors or just like in exploring a new hobby, what you could do is just go down to your local art store and ask them to allow you to open the packet and just touch the paper. So once you touch it, you will understand the difference. There's a very, very big texture difference. So it is something that if you are interested in watercolors, you should really look into it. Okay, that being said, I'm going to move on to my next color, which is an ultramarine blue on my palette. And I'm just going to place it down. I feel like I want it slightly darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix in a darker blue, which is the cobalt blue hue on my palette. Okay, so if you are using the same palette that I am, or you have a camel palette, they usually have these two blues or they have a Prussian blue. So either of those colors work. So that's what the cobalt looks like. And it's quite a beautiful color. But now that you can see, it's kind of wiping all the color off my paper. So I don't want that. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes for it to dry and then I'll come back to it. And now for the darkest color, we're going to use black because it is almost night in our picture. So the top of our sky is going to be black. So I'm just putting that black down as well.
And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait for a minute, and I'm going to then just go over all my colors again because I want it to look a little more vivid than what it is looking right now. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for a minute for it to dry, and then we will do this again. If you don't want to do the next step, it's absolutely fine. I usually put very light color at the base and then I build up again. But if you've put heavy color or you quite like the light color, just let it be and just follow through with the next step. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly just do a touch test and see how much my paint has dried. So I don't know if you could see, but the paint has lifted off from here because it's not yet dry. So it's a clear indication that I still need to wait. Okay, so now I'm just going to go over the colors again, the ones that I want to just build up a little. And I'm going to take lesser water and more pigment or more paint onto my brush, and then I'm just going to build.
Hey Kritika, Sanjana here. So my
Hi.
paper has torn, unfortunately. So maybe I'll have to recreate this once we're done with this session. Um,
Yes.
and you know, the colors in this bookmark are so versatile because sunset is definitely something we could do. But do you think we could also use maybe the rainbow colors for this?
Of course, of course. So you can absolutely use any colors you like. So I had done another piece in this for an order, and what I done and what the client wanted was only shades of green. So I
Right,
started with black, and then I did like I had some 5 shades of green on my palette. So I just did like dark to light,
right.
and that's about it. Like, and then and she wanted like a few mountains and all in green again. So at the base, I just put like the darkest green again. So basically these mountains that I've added in black and like a deeper yellow, I just did it in green for her. So
Okay.
you can absolutely do any colors you like.
Okay.
Uh, as for your paper tearing, it's probably just happened because you've used excessive amounts of water. So
Right,
if
right.
anyone else has had that problem, what you could do is just use lesser water. Because I honestly don't expect most of you guys to have watercolor paper handy at home. And while Amazon is delivering, it's taking a decent amount of time and they don't always have stock. So even if you don't have paints, you can actually recreate this entire scene with color pencils or I don't know, colored pens if you want to experiment with that. Like it's honestly something that you can do with so many mediums. It's very, very fun to work with. So I'm just going to go over this red area again because I think it's quite patchy. So I'm just doing that again, and then we will move on to the mountains of the painting. Also, if you guys don't have a violet on your palette, blue and red makes violet. So like you can see, I've not refreshed my violet over here, but I kind of just dragged my blue down and my red up, and it's given me a very pretty color there. So I am now going to touch my violet because I think the blend is not a very smooth transition, but yeah. Okay, so now all I've got to do is hold off for a few seconds before I go on my paper again. So I'm just going to get my next brush ready. So ideally for the mountains or any foreground that I'm painting, I usually like working with round brushes because it just gives me a lot more control and precision over what I'm doing. If you've already been using a round brush for this entire area, that's amazing because I genuinely feel like round brushes take a lot a lot longer to work with, but they actually give you a beautiful effect. So now I'm going to go onto my mountains. And what I'm doing is I'm taking an Indian yellow on my palette. If you don't have an Indian yellow, a yellow ochre works as well. And I'm just going to go in and paint my mountains in directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it with my paintbrush. If you don't want to do that, you can easily do it with a pencil first and then go over it again. Just remember, before you paint over a pencil drawing or whatever on watercolor, just make sure to erase your lines first, because you won't be able to erase it later. So watercolor kind of seals your pencil marks in, so it becomes impossible to get out later. So if you are penciling it in, just make sure to kind of be very light on it. And I'm just going to do the same thing in black with my mountains. So I'm just drawing it for now, and then we'll paint them in. So that's all I'm doing, okay? And what I'm doing is now just painting it in. So I feel like a flat brush would really help me in this scene, because it will help me just go faster at this. The mountains don't have to be perfect, because they're mountains and we've never seen perfect mountains in nature. So if it's a little jagged or a little crooked or whatever, that's absolutely fine. It just adds to the authenticity of your painting. And again, we are doing this on a bookmark. I would love to see if you guys are recreating this on bigger pieces of paper, because working at the speed for watercolors is the challenge for any watercolor piece. And that's about it. And I'm just going to go back with my round brush and the Indian yellow or yellow ochre, whatever color you're using, because I want my mountains in the background to be more precise. And plus they're smaller, so it's easier to work with a round brush on a smaller surface. So as you can see, my black mountains are still wet. So I have to be a little careful with what I'm doing so I don't smudge into it. Because the thing with watercolor is, if you go over a wet area with a wet brush or more paint, it will bleed into the next color. And you don't want that. So just be a little careful and you'll be all good. So I feel like my black is a little uneven, so I'm just going to go in and even it out. And we're done with the main part of our painting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly take some silver pen and just draw in a few stars really quickly. So the thing with silver pen is it just gives it a very nice twinkle, and that's about it. If you want something more, you could do this with white paint as well. I'll show you what I mean. And you can also do it with white pen or gold pen. I don't have any gold pen with me, and I honestly like silver stars a lot more than gold stars. And I'm also just going to go over it quickly with a white pen. Just draw in some stars that are actually just dots. And maybe I'm going to add just one star flare or like a bigger star.
This is absolutely pretty, Krittika, and I still cannot believe we're actually finishing this in just 25 minutes.
Yep. And we're done. Like, we're done. There's nothing more left to do other than just peel off the tape, which is honestly the most satisfying part of the painting, because that's how cool it looks in the end.
Absolutely. Now we know exactly what we are going to trim from this video and put it with a hashtag oddly satisfying thing.
Yes, definitely. So for you, I'm really, really, really excited to see what you guys have created. And if you are creating it on a bigger piece of paper or doing it as something else, I would love to see that. So please, please, please share it with us on Instagram, tag us so we can see what you've done. And we're going to share, we always share everything that we were sent, because our whole purpose is to just spread happiness through art. So yeah, I'm just going to touch this mountain up because I think it was a little funny, but that's about it. And we're done. We're actually done with painting a beautiful sunset bookmark in 25 minutes. So the whole point of this was to show you guys that art doesn't always require a lot of time, and it doesn't require a lot of patience. A lot of people have the misconception that art requires a lot of time, but it really doesn't. Like, okay. All right. I really hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'm just going to quickly switch over to my laptop. Okay.
Hi guys. One second. Hi guys, I really hope you guys had an amazing time painting with me. And please, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask me right now. You can find me on Instagram and you can ask me any questions there. And if you have any questions and you feel like you can't reach out to me or you don't want to reach out to me directly, send it over to Sanjana, and I'm quite sure she's going to send it to us as well. Yep, I can see my Instagram handle on there. So
Hi, Krittika. So on the chat section, I've just sent across it's Kritika's Instagram handle. You guys can check out her profile. She's put a couple of tutorials out there, and she's also she will for sure DM all your queries. And yes, I've made a piece of art with Krittika very recently, and it was so therapeutic. Honestly, it was super fun.
did you do the pen art session?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, those are very therapeutic. I see someone called Akanksha saying hers turned out to be so cute, and I really can't wait to see what you guys have created.
That's
Please
amazing.
share it with us on Instagram. I'm very excited to see what all of your results look like. And well, happy creating, keep painting, keep following us on Instagram, because we're doing this all the time. We do one live session every week in this lockdown period. Now that we have
Right.
lockdown 5.0, I think we have 4 more weeks of just creating on Instagram.
Yes.
So I'm really looking.
though.
I really had an amazing time, Sanjana, and this is a brilliant initiative, and I'm so proud of you to be doing this.
Thank you.
I really look forward to collaborating with you again over something else this next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you, Krittika. This session has been amazing. We are going to move to our next session now because it's 5 o'clock already. Again, I mentioned Kritika's coordinates down there in the chat box, so please feel free to reach out to her. So the next session, our 5 o'clock session, will be